We don't need much of an imagination to understand why being married to an NFL player is so appealing to a lot of women. Obviously, you have the glamour, the newfound wealth, the elevated social status, things that women, if we're being honest with ourselves, really like. But I met somebody named Angela Marshall who was really brave and quite honest in sharing her experiences being married to an NFL player. Obviously, she acknowledged a lot of the positive parts about it, but she was also very courageous in sharing some of the darkness and some of the sadness she experienced in this marriage. And what we're going to do right now is share that conversation with you. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing in Georgia.
It was very grueling growing up. Not really feeling like or thinking that you were adopted or just wondering why everybody looked a little different than you. I grew up with my two grandparents, so then that posed a different set of questions in my head, so to speak, because I even now, like I'm still going through counseling. I'm dealing with rejection. So, and it's been a struggle ever since I was a little girl, and I just couldn't understand, the man who my mom said was my dad is like, okay, well, he's not here, and then you're not here either. I'm being raised by my grandparents, so it just, it set off all types of, from ticking bombs, to frustration, to sadness, to depression, to, I mean, it was just a lot. It was a lot for me to deal with. But I will say that coming out on this end, looking at it from this set of eyes, all of that was necessary to bring me to the woman that would then, venture out and write the book, which is a story in life of an ex-NFL wife. Also be able to just speak and help people on how to turn their stumbling blocks into stepping stones. So growing up in Georgia, it was, I did your pageants. I was raised up in a Baptist church, and, I did all the stuff that I was in drama, which I'm a drama queen. So I did drama. I did band. It was a normal upbringing. It's just that there were a lot of things that were abnormal taking place, from bullying to, just my own inner thoughts, trying to figure life out at such an early age, that kind of posed put problems within myself.
How would you describe the kind of men that were available to you when you were a young woman?
Well, they were all very studious. My set of eyes, I didn't start looking at the bad boys, I guess, if you would, until I got a little older. So growing up in a very strict household with my grandparents, it wasn't like I was even supposed to have a boyfriend or even supposed to have eyes for guys, but I just did. So, but most of the guys that I interacted with were very polite. They were gentlemen. They were, like all of them now, because, I keep in touch with quite a few of them through the wonderful world of social media and technology. They are all very successful, happily married for the most part, and, they're great guys. Arthur, I guess, was different because his confidence, a lot of people call it arrogant and a little cockiness, but I guess, as I mentioned in the book, because I had not tapped into my power, that intrigued me. It's like he just knew, even though he was a receiver, well, at the time I met him, he was actually a quarterback, and then they switched his position. Yeah, they switched his position in college, and then he, went on to play wide receiver. But this is a man who, like, he told me he could play every position in the football on the football team, and I believed him, because I knew that that's just the confidence and, the drive and the determination that he had, was that he could do whatever. So I was intrigued. I was drawn to that, and I'm finding that over time, that is, probably a quality that I enjoy, I guess, when I'm interacting with guys. Just, someone who's very sure, very certain about who he is and where he's going, and what he can do. It intrigues me.
Did you compare Arthur's level of confidence and other qualities to other men that you knew at that time?
No, Honestly, it was just like it was just him. So when I met him, he was literally like my first boyfriend. And so there really wasn't a comparison. Like the other guys that I talked to, there was, we were kind of joking around or interacting briefly here and there. But, and then I liked other jocks, I guess, if you would, other professional, people that were in sports. They were more appealing to me. And let me just throw this out there. That's not what I look for. So I don't want nobody to be sending me no emails or be like, well, that's why you don't have a man, because they got to be in sports. No, it's just, I guess, their determination, their drive, their focus to never give up or never give in. And me, once being a quitter, like I would just really, the least little thing, throw my hands up, I'm tired, I don't want to go any further. That attracted me. And in some way, even the relationship that Arthur and I had, it's now instilled in me and it's embedded in me just from me being around him and being around that. And now I have that stick to it, never give up, confidence myself.
That's an interesting point you bring up, because I think it's easy for people to focus on the optics of being an athlete, the life of an athlete, or dating or marrying an athlete. And what's probably missed a lot is what's underneath of the qualities that determines your success as an athlete. It's like, you got to be disciplined. You have to be confident. You have to, be enduring. So it's interesting to hear you put it in that way. I don't quite think I've ever heard many women put it in that respect. So I like that. So, well, let me ask you, so it's clear what you were attracted, or what qualities Arthur had that attracted you. What do you think Arthur saw in you besides being a beautiful young woman?
Well, I think that because I was very quiet then and docile, not anymore. But I do believe that that's what drew him initially. That, and then the fact that we were actually introduced by a mutual friend.
Okay.
I had someone I knew from church, and then he knew from school. I had him, formally introduce us, and things just kind of spiraled after that. And then I was smart, I was intelligent. I did his work from time to time. I'm not gonna lie, I did homework, I did papers. I even did that through college. I can say that now. But so yeah, I think he knew, just looking at me and then interacting with me, that I would be a pretty, I would be a pretty decent girlfriend. I was a good girl.
Did you ever think that part of Arthur's attraction to you was in part to you being, a light complexion woman? Because, I mean, truthfully speaking, there was a time, and I think even now, some people in the African American community place lighter complexion Black people higher on the caste system. And frankly, I think outside races view some of our brothers and sisters in that light as well. So do you think that was a factor in Arthur's attraction to you?
For that, I can't answer if he, tilted the light skin scale, because I know he dated other African American girls prior to me, and they were darker. The ones that came after me, they are not. They have not been darker. So, I don't really know. I don't want to try to speak for him, but I'm glad you touched on that, because a lot of empowerment engagements that I go to, because I am, really vocal about celebrating, motivating, illuminating, and liberating others, I usually will start with that elephant right there in the room, because me being light skinned, and then just yesterday I had someone to say, oh, you got good hair. I'm really trying to change that trajectory to that. It's just a different texture. It's not good hair. If you're saying I have good hair, that implies somebody has bad hair. And that's where the jealousy and the envy and, the contempt comes from within. And like, it's people I don't even know. And it's been ever since a little girl, because of course, my hair was longer then, and it's a different texture. But trust me, I don't know where Beyonce says she wake up like that, or whoever else say they wake up like that. I've never woke up like this. It takes some work and some products. From the standpoint of being light skinned, I've written, because I also have a poetry book, but I've written 2 essays on that particular subject where I talk about being too light for black and then too dark for white. Because I've had it on both ends. You know, I recall a time where my Caucasian friends in school, you know, we were good until it was time for me to possibly come to a sleepover at their house. I could never sleep over at their house. And then the black friends, or, you know, African American friends, would be upset with me because I, you know, was interacting and had friends, had Caucasian friends, and, you know, they would always tell me, you think you better than. No, I don't think I'm better than. I've never thought that I was better than. I always try to say that I am my sister's connection, not competition. So from a light skin perspective, I am one who I've never thought that I was better than. I don't even know where that comes from, other than, I guess, you know, the whole slave dynamics and how they divided and, you know, tried to keep us apart, or keep us mad at each other and, you know, antagonizing each other due to color lines and whatnot. But yeah, you touched on something there, because it's been a problem within the African American community for some time. And, you know, I tell them, hey, okay, well, what do we need to do to be a part of the solution and not the problem? But it's so prevalent and it's embedded so deep within women, within men, you know, looking at lighter, I think just the color as a whole, it signifies being safe, you know, and dark signifies, oh, it's something to fear. And that's just, you know, that's just kind of my take on it. But yeah, I've heard that just about my entire life, especially when dating Arthur, then being married to Arthur. Like, yeah, he went light, or he went, what do they say, light, bright, and almost white, or whatever. So because I am biracial, matter of fact, I'm like tri, 5, 6 tuplet racial, whatever you want to say. I got a bunch of stuff, you know, different ethnicities mixed into me. But I wouldn't say then in the late 80s when Arthur and I met that was his focal point, because I've seen his girlfriends prior to me, very beautiful, his sisters, very beautiful. So I don't think that was it initially. I think that may be it now, though, and I will go on record for saying that.
You had your first child together when you were in high school, is that correct?
Yes, I was 17.
Okay. So
yes, I was 17 and then 19. So our son was born first. My last year of high school, son was born first in 88, and then our daughter was born in 1990, his second year in college, third year in college.
Like, I mean, obviously having a kid at any stage of life is a game changer. Yep. Did you feel that having or being, you know, expecting, you know, your firstborn with Arthur was, you know, was it a game changer in terms of like, okay, well, this has long-term implications, we're going to be together, get married? Or did you have any fears about, you know, is he still interested in staying with me and having a life with me? What was your, you know, let us into your emotional window at that point.
I was frightened, as I should have been, because I had him at 17, but I got pregnant at 16. He was born in April of 1988. So it was a very scary time for me. And I guess it was more scary because growing up Baptist in the 70s, 80s, it was taboo. I think they welcome you with open arms now, or not necessarily open arms, but they try to, you know, keep you close. Whereas me at that time, it was more or less like, even the high school that I went to, they moved me from that high school to this high school that housed pregnant girls at the time. They don't do that anymore, but it was called Martha Lester, and that's where I went. But yeah, no, I was scared. I guess I really didn't have time to run all of that through my brain as far as like, oh, I wonder if we're gonna marry, or if we're gonna get married, or if he's gonna leave me. I was just very, like skeptical and afraid for me personally, like what was going to happen to me. Forget him, just how different is I'm in school, I'm trying to finish school. I'm only 16, only 17 when I had him. What's going to happen to my life? So no, I never really gave thought about him. Now, the second child with our daughter, in 1990 I did, because I was still here. He was at UGA at the time. And there was a lot of talk that, okay, now she has 2 children by him. He's never going to marry her. He's going to go off. He's going to go to the NFL, because all the hype, the talk around town locally here was, you know, he was going to make it into the NFL and all of that. So at that point, I began to think, where am I going to fit into all of this? And we would have conversations, and he tried to assure me that no, he was going to take the children and I with him, and we were going to be together and all of this. But you know, there was other stuff, other girls.
Okay, that's a good segue. Let's dive into that. You dangle something out there, and I gotta snag onto it. So
oh my.
Let's put this in perspective for people. So you're pregnant, or you had your first kid with this guy who's a rising talent.
Yes.
In football, but not just an athlete. He has a glamour position, like a skilled position as a wide receiver. And now he's at the University of Georgia, and there's buzz about him going to the NFL.
Yes.
Let's talk about the anxiety you may have had with your future prospects with him. Let's talk about if there's any anxiety with the competition with other women, because if we're honest with ourselves, people are animals sometimes, and they're predatory. And I can see a lot of scenarios if a woman says, you know, I'm a better prospect, or I'm a better mate for this man. He has this woman with this child. I'm unencumbered. I'm a fresh start, a fresh slate. And then guys look at, I mean, it gets really messy. So let's talk about your state of anxiety at that time.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I was, after our daughter was born, then I began to really press on him as far as like, what's going to happen when you graduate from college? What are your plans? What are your plans for me? What are your plans for, you know, the children and I? And like I said, he was diplomatic and a gentleman about it all. And, you know, it's like, no, you know, when I get there and I get settled, and I'm going to take you all, you know, with me. But it did not ease my anxiety. Like, I lived just about every day, you know, and I guess it was a toss between sadness and anger, because I wasn't really sure which route he would go, or if he would hold up his end of the bargain. I just didn't. I was just a kid having children, and I had no idea. And then I had no aspirations as far as like what I wanted to be in life. My career choice, I didn't have a career choice. I was just having children and working at Kentucky Fried Chicken at the time, and going to school. So it was a lot. I was really overwhelmed. But as far as thinking about the competition, you know, there were always girls after Arthur, even before I had our 2 children, because he was the superstar at the high school. And even before that, from what I understand, which I didn't know him prior to that, but from what I understand, he did Pee Wee League and he was great. And he did middle school, he was great. And I didn't know any of this. So, you know, me and some of the other wives, and I've said this in some other interviews, we jokingly call, when we talk about our lives with the guys, we're like, well, we weren't latch-ons. You know, a latch-on is somebody who, after they've attained and they've achieved their stardom, then you latch on. We were to ride and live, or, you know, I've just used that term right now. It was ride and die at that time, because when I met Arthur, he drove a 1978 Grand Prix that leaked rain on me. So BMWs and Lexus and all that I drove later on, that was not what I was accustomed to early on. Okay, so we just have to, you know, clear any of that up for the listeners who think, you know, I'm light skinned and I just latched on, or like they try to say the light skin or the white was trying to get him after success. No, you know, I helped him a great deal.
So,
but, you know, I never really viewed the other women as competition. I would always direct my anger and my frustration at him, because, you know, I'm like, I'm supposed to be your girlfriend. I'm the mother of your children. You know, the respect starts with you. So that's how I always viewed everything. But I'm sure they said that, you know, people say that now. I've heard a lot of stuff as far as like my relevance, even with my story and life of an ex-NFL wife platform. It's like, it's shallow, it's vain. She's just trying to get her 15 minutes of fame, and that's not it. Like, I'm truly into leaving a legacy, or just being a living legacy, and then helping other people to overcome these obstacles that I once went through. And I mean, why would I not want to do that? Why would I not want my story shared and plastered as much as possible?
Was there any pressure on you to be, what they say in the business world, a better value proposition or something greater to keep them engaged?
I'm going to be honest, no. Like, I just lacked motivation. I lacked drive. I guess I was viewing my life at that particular time with having 2 children as over. And I don't blame my children, having the children. It just, my mindset was just so dark and so dismal. I just, I guess I was just floating, hoping that we would go with him, or that he would stay true to his word, and and would take us along. And then I probably would have, if he didn't, I probably would have figured it out. But I'm just gonna be honest, I just didn't. Like, growing up, I wanted to be a supermodel. I never wanted children. Now I'm not tall, but I'm not short either. But I never wanted, and I guess maybe that came from all the different pageants that I was in, and I had the big head, because usually I would win. I only lost one pageant in my entire life. I was distraught. But I wanted to be a supermodel. And so, how do you go from that, a supermodel, to now, you only have high school education and you have 2 children. So there was nothing that motivated me. And that's why I try so hard now to be a motivation to others, to light, especially women, to empower women, because I understand what that feels like, where you just, floating, or you just walking, walking on this, excuse me, on this earth. And it's like, you have no purpose, you have no position, you have no potential, you have no power, which are all lies. But I just, for whatever reason, I just had no aspirations to move in, to do anything for myself. It just all became, it was all about him. And then we had children, it was all about the children. And then, it was all about other people. So now it's all about Angela.
So you see, Arthur finishes his 4 years at Georgia. He signs with the Broncos as a free agent in '92. So what is the state of your relationship like? Are you guys still officially dating, or did you get married? And like, secondarily, I guess my ultimate question is, when he makes it with the Broncos, what did you think your life would look at?
He and I had several conversations, and he always told me that once he got there and got settled, that he would send for us, which he did. So, I wasn't necessarily worried or concerned when he left. And I was just back here chilling, waiting on him to get the tickets so that the children and I could come with him again. Everything was hinging off of that man. Every move that I made, just about every breath that I took, to be honest with you, it was like, he said he was gonna do this. Is he gonna really come through? And he did. Now, I will say that Arthur actually was supposed to be drafted. He was touted to be a high draft pick in 1990, I believe. I can't remember when he broke his leg against LSU, but that's why he ended up. And I don't say that as a bad thing, because he's amazing. And I know he's glad that he went on ahead and he finished and received his degree. But I also know that he really wanted to enter in the NFL earlier than what he did. So when he went in '92, the children and I, he was gone like 3 months, I guess, or so. And then we went right behind them in August of that year. So there wasn't any reservations on my part. Again, you're talking about an early 20-year-old. And for me, I know that there are some 20-year-olds that rock. I have 2 cousins that are so focused and driven, they just run circles around my life at that age. But for whatever reason, I just, my aspirations, my dreams, my goals, all I saw was having 2 children and being totally dependent on this man.
understandably, unless you come from privilege, there's a jump in wealth. Like
Yes.
as a college guy, you're making
Under
almost,
the table.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well, there's that. There's under the table, but then like in terms of taxable income, you're going from little to nothing to this big jump
Right.
in in wealth.
Yep.
How did life change for you guys in terms of your material, like your lifestyle, the material stuff? Maybe you can buy a better car, you can
Yep.
get a different class of restaurant.
All of the above. We can check off that list, everything that you just said, because I didn't have a car. He always had, vehicles, even during college years. He had vehicles, different vehicles, but he bought me my first car when I got there, and it was actually from one of John Elway's dealerships. So we bought a vehicle. We lived in a 3-bedroom condo, which was pretty cool. Me being from modest backgrounds, I had never seen, some of the buildings, just the apartment buildings or the condo, the villas, the homes that once we went to Denver and kind of toured where we were going to live, I had never seen homes like that before. So it was all very, very different. Going from, as you mentioned, like I actually worked Kentucky Fried Chicken. I can't remember what I was making at that time, but anyway, and for him, his first year, he actually made $115,000. So that was pretty good. And we tried to help family. We did quite a few things that probably was not as smart with the money initially, but we quickly learned. So that was a good thing. But I mean, it was just like, it's still, for me, even with the vehicle, with the new surroundings, it did not settle into my brain that, wow, like this is a different lifestyle for you. Like you're really, you got a lot of freedom offered to you. You had, as far as wiggle room with finances, that is. And just the exposure, different things. I mean, for God's sake, like we're going to celebrity events, meeting other celebrities, hobnobbing with other celebrities, engaging, like phone calls. I can just pick up. At the time, they had the bag phones. I don't know if you remember that, but we just pick up the phone, and on the phone we got like Shannon Sharp and Elway, different ones. But it was just like, when everything finally settled into my brain, like, okay, this is NFL lifestyle. That probably was about maybe the 3rd year that he was in the NFL. So yeah, it just, I don't know. Like I said, when you're talking about a person who lacked motivation, I couldn't even, didn't have any courage, didn't have any, it was just like, I'm just floating through life behind this man who is living his dreams out loud, and I'm just his girlfriend at the time, because we didn't get married until 1993. He went into the league 1992, and then we got married in November of 1993.
Sounds like there was definitely some fish out of water emotions that you had going on. You go from this southern town in Augusta, you're kind of in like a bigger city in Denver. And then you're hobnobbing with the celebrities and other, pro athletes and whatnot. So, like, I think, or I'm not going to say I think, I guess that a lot of people look at that part of the life as the focus, and maybe not realize there's the other 6 days of the week when the athlete's not playing, and there's the day-to-day stuff that you can't get around. Or you can't escape from being a human being. So looking back, what would you guess that women get wrong about the NFL or being a part of the NFL life?
The main thing that they get wrong about it is thinking that we are not humans and like we don't have feelings. So some of the ugly comments, the ugly things that they say, that they put out there, for not only for us, but also our children to read, that can get really, really overwhelming at times. So that would be number one. Number two would be just thinking that these NFL wives, like we feel like we don't have any flaws or insecurities. just picking us apart because of hair, or maybe the makeup's not on that day, or maybe I just threw on some sweats and decided to go to the grocery store, and now all of a sudden I got somebody calling me a hot mess, Wendy Williams calling me a hot mess or whatever. you know being able to just be who you are. It's almost as if, on one hand, they want you to be a regular person or want you to have regular feelings, so to speak. And then on the other hand, if you don't do that, then you think you better than, but then they make you better than. It's a battle that you cannot win. But I don't know a wife, period. And I'm not saying like, they had the deep depression or the low self-esteem issues like I endured once upon a time. But I don't know a woman alive, NFL or otherwise, that is not insecure about something, on her body, or the weight, or the fatness, or chubbiness, or whatever. I mean, I don't know. So to think that all NFL women, like, we don't have feelings, and we just wake up and we just want to walk around with red bottoms and look pretty all day every day. Nah, that's a big myth.
I think there's no escaping, like you touched on, of being human. You have bad moments. I have my own bad moments, man. Did you experience any darkness, whether it's in, just on a personal level? Did you experience any darkness in your relationship?
I actually contemplated suicide, and it was driven by me not thinking that I had value, or that my children needed me. Anybody needed me at that particular point. We had actually stepped up, and that's what's so crazy about it, because people see, I guess, car service, and they see you can get your house cleaned, you have maids, or you have chefs, and this and that, and they equate that with what they think is a certain level of happiness. But for a person like me, and I'm just speaking for me, it was almost as if I was moving myself out the way, like I was useless. So I'm thinking to myself, we're now making more money, and so we're able to get a little bit more help in certain areas. It's not, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not that we needed the help, because I was a stay-at-home mom. I didn't do anything other than go to the gym from time to time with some of the other wives. But I just felt completely useless that particular day. And I see myself lying in the bed, just really thinking about everything, thinking about my life as a whole, just how I had done nothing with it. And the NFL was so outstanding and phenomenal, and I'm sure they are to this day. They would have really, even for the wives, if you want to go back to school, anything that you want to do, they are supportive. They would help you. But remember, it was just me, like I had no drive. So I was in the bed, and I was just like, you know what? Like, my children have people that cook for them, that clean, that does this and that. Why am I really here? What's the purpose? Yeah, my husband, from time to time acts like a husband. From time to time I act like a wife. We were having so many problems, just mainly because of, just my mindset of just being negative and being bound by so many different fears that I had within myself. And so, I had some pain pills, because I would get these really, really bad migraines. So I had this bottle of pain pills, and I actually was going to take it, but had it been not for my 6-year-old, I think Auburn was 5 at the time, our daughter, she just burst through the door at the right time, and we had a conversation. She threw her arms around me, and then it's like at that moment, that was like the first step to recovery for me, because feeling her arms and that human connection and that touch, it made me feel valued, and it let me know that, yes, I am worth something alive. Like, I need to be here for my daughter. And so I didn't do it. And the crazy piece is that I never spoke a word about it. I never got help. I never said anything until here recently, when I revealed it back in July on another interview, on another podcast show. And then it just all hit me at once. And I actually had to go through counseling for it.
That's kind of amazing how we get so much, or get so in our own heads, and we create these narratives of how we see the world, especially for a mother, when kids at that age are clearly very needy, but yet you felt like, you know, your use to people was sort of diminishing. Like, but who did you have for your own support system, whether you were aware of it or not? Like, did you have other friends? Did you have people in the church that you could lean on and sort of bounce things off or vent to?
At any given moment, I could pick up the phone. I could go to different girlfriends' homes, or even back here in Augusta, I could make phone calls. I had a loving family. I just was not hearing and would not believe anything. I can't tell you. It was almost as if having earmuffs on, or just choosing to, to stay down, or to stay in that particular mindset at that particular time. I don't know why. But yeah, at any time I could have picked up the phone. And then I had people talking to me and conversing, and telling me how great I was, and I was being helpful. I mean, I was still being positive penny to them, but behind closed doors, my own self, I was drowning. Like, I was really, really, I was drowning. I was draining myself. I was just in a state of, my life is like, I don't deserve the oxygen that I'm breathing. And I will say this, you're right, even with the children, but see, I think, and I'm not giving anyone a pass for, to make the decision or choice to take their life or whatnot. But for me, here you have a person who has access to money. I've got different things in my life going on that could help the children. But, on the other hand, you have other people that within their dynamics, they want to kill themselves because they really feel like, I'm really no use. Like, I can't get a job. I don't have access to money. I don't have, I got like problems on top of problems mounting up. Well, I didn't have that. It was totally the opposite for me. I had the resources, but just my mind was just, oh my God, it was so sick. I termed it, one of the interviews that I did the other day, I was like, I'm so happy that I had the strength to detox inwardly, because that made a whole mountain of difference in my life.
What was your observation like in terms of levels of happiness in other relationships?
Well, let me say this, even though I wasn't behind their closed doors 24 hours, it was 4 of us in a group, right? All of us are divorced.
Okay.
So that should tell you a little something right there. But like, I look at homes, or I look at different settings now, and you never really know. Just like, I'm sure people passed by our $500,000 house, and we were probably the envy of the town, or the envy of many, like, oh my God. But behind all of that brick and that stucco and that white, that beautiful white home, I mean, it was sadness. It was despair. And it wasn't like there was abuse. No, I had a couple of people that asked me about that. Arthur never put his hands on me. If anything, he probably could have brought charges up on me. But it wasn't anything like that. But it just was not a home. It was a house. It was a house with things. And that's it. I mean, there was love there. We both loved our children, and we both love each other. It's just that there was no in love. There was no compromise, working through it. It wasn't all the things that it takes to really have a solid relationship that I believe now. It just, none of that behind those closed doors, whether we were in New York, Denver, here, any home that we've ever had, it just wasn't. But it was because of my mentality.
If you were to point, like the erosion, and sorry for using such a strong word, but
yeah.
when your relationship starts suffering and deteriorating, what do you attribute that to?
Our relationship was just rocky, probably starting in college. So I can't really say that he was concerned about this or that. I'm sure that those are valid reasons. But I just think for me, when I decided to go to him, which I had asked for a divorce like probably 100 times or more, and then there were several times I would just, you know, buy plane tickets and pack the children in our bags, and we would come back home. So I've done that quite a bit. Yeah, I was one of those. I was a runner, but I believe the straw that broke the camel's back for me was I just wanted a better life for me. And I didn't think that I would be able to have that with him. But it wasn't because of him. It's just that I was not open at that point to the idea of making the little bit of relationship that we had. I just wasn't into making it work.
What do you consider a better life?
So that would be one where I had a voice, one where I could express, I could live, I could just be so free to be me, because I was so bound by other people's, by societal pressures, by other people's, assessment of me, how they thought I should walk and talk and be and look and laugh and whatever else, being an NFL wife. I mean, it was hard and it was difficult enough and challenging enough being his girlfriend in high school, and then being his girlfriend in college, and then, the mother of his children. And, now you got the additional pressures of NFL. And it's just, yeah, it's people don't understand that it is an enormous amount of weight when you are not mature enough mentally, emotionally. And then I'm gonna throw another one out there, even spiritually, like, you and I talked about earlier with the meditation that is really helping me. So the mindset that I have now, looking in hindsight, had I been in that mindset, yes, I would have been better equipped and, outfitted for the whole NFL lifestyle. But, unfortunately, early 20s, 2 children, barely knowing anything about life myself, it was very difficult for me. Yeah, very difficult. And let me just go back. Remember, I told you I battled with the spirit of rejection just from my mom. So I think a lot of that had, it kind of followed me, and it trailed me, and it had a lot to do with my marriage.
Do you ever reflect on your relationship with your biological father having an impact on your relationship with Arthur at that time?
So I speak about it, but I still don't know him to this day. I know of him, seen him a couple of times, conversations here or there. But I think, just my opinion, I think that there is definitely, there's a correlation there between having your parents in your life, mother and father, or just caregivers. If you're raised, you're blessed enough to be raised by an aunt or uncle or maternal grandparents or paternal grandparents. I think when you have somebody sturdy and steady in your life, that it does make a difference. Now, I'm not dissing my grandparents and saying that they weren't those things. They were, but they were like extremely, 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 extremely strict. So, for a girl who's curious and has a lot of questions, and the majority of the questions stem from, the biological parents, and nobody's talking about anything, is hush hush, I don't have a clue. So yeah, I think that a lot of interactions that I've had with guys, and then probably even to this day, I will say that I think that that has a lot to do with my lack thereof of skill sets, being able to communicate effective, being able to, just really foster a really, really good relationship. Now, I dated 2 guys. After Arthur, they were long relationships. One guy dated 3 years, the other guy dated 4 years. So I can sustain one, but sustaining and maintaining, to me, that's two different things. So I just wasn't in the headspace, and it probably is due to biological father. I think there's some truth to that.
Was there a clear defining moment when you guys finally settled upon divorcing?
So November 4th of 1999, which is crazy because that's 4 days before my birthday, I just, went to him and I told him that I was filing. He didn't believe me because I had said it so many times. After I talked to him about it in our room, then I went into our children's room. My daughter's room. Went into my daughter's room, had my son come in, and I just explained to them, they were 9 and 11 at the time. I explained to them that I just, was overwhelmed. I was tired. Kind of gave them the Cliff Notes version, which they had heard way too much as children anyway, between Arthur and I having open discussions and arguing and disagreeing in front of them, which we should not have been doing. So I talked to them and I was like, I am leaving your dad. I'm going to get a divorce, start a life for myself. And I gave them the option at that time, still there it is, that thinking about other people, because I figured he would be the one to give them the better life, just based on resources, monetary, where he was skill set wise and all of that. But after the conversation, my son and daughter didn't blink an eye, and they both said, when are we leaving? So I highlighted in the book where I talk about, I knew at that point they were tired of him and they were tired of me. And so they were just like, look, okay, it's over. We're going to go with you and let's just do this.
Any regrets from the divorce or the marriage itself?
One of the things that I highly regret, which I just touched on a little bit ago, was just exposing our children to adult topics that they should not have been privy to. Like, I wish I had been more mature to have any of the issues that were vexing me, to be able to talk to him in a calm manner behind closed doors, or not, bring up certain things in front of the children, because I know that it had an impact on them. I really, really regret that. And then I'm going to say this, and this is kudos to my ex, which, again, my book is not this reality wives bashing, technique or whatever against him. I really applaud him in a lot of areas, and I'm just really telling my story truthfully. But one of the other regrets is Arthur worked very, very hard to be an awesome provider for us. I never really looked at it like that. You said something earlier, and I meant to piggyback off of it, but I forgot until now. When you said, well, he's an athlete the one day of the week, and then the other people forget about the other 6 days because, I guess he's on TV for that Sunday or Monday night football or whatever back then. But when he would say, I'm getting ready to go to work, to me, him going to play football or practicing at the bubble, it just wasn't like work to me. Like, I never valued him. I never valued that as a job. And I don't know why. That's so crazy. Like, I never valued him saying, I got to go to practice, and then him coming home, his feet would be hurting, his knees would be hurting, or, maybe he got whatever you call it, blindsided, and he was, really in an enormous amount of pain. And I'm just like, I don't know why. I really don't. I guess being with him from high school, college, it just didn't dawn on me. But I'm going to say this, once my behind got into the workforce and I had to start working a 12-hour shift, and I had to pay my own bills. Oh my God, my first eye opener was that car insurance. Remember, I hadn't done nothing. I hadn't made a payment on nothing. He took care of everything completely from top to bottom. And I was like, car insurance is how much? So I really, from that perspective, and I've told him many times, I really appreciated him, and I regretted that I did not, just give him the recognition and the accolades that he deserved then, because he was a phenomenal provider.
Well, good for you. And let me jump on that bandwagon real quick, because I think I played in high school and college, and what people who aren't, and this is not a knock on anybody, when you're not an athlete, you don't understand the the granular detail of being an athlete. I played basketball. You're always hurt. Yet your husband played a sport where you could die each and every day or get severely injured. So there's that, but people don't have that frame of reference. And in terms of him providing for you, good for him. Good for you, Arthur, if you're listening, because a lot of men can provide and they don't.
That's right.
And they run away and they abandon these children and abandon families. So props to him for taking care of you, and props to him for standing behind his responsibility as a man and taking care of his kids. What I would like to ask you also, like post divorce, what were your standards like in terms of dating men now that you dated this world class athlete?
I didn't really have any initially for like the first couple of years. I was like, I got to get myself together. I got to get my life together. So I wasn't really thinking about standards or this list, even though I was what do you call it, an avid Oprah fan at the time. And she would always talk about these lists that you need to write out and be really specific. But I didn't, because I wasn't really thinking in that mindset. But now when it became clear to me, because of course I would have guys trying to talk to me or whatnot here locally from time to time, and I said, okay, well, maybe it's time that I kind of get into the game, get into the dating game, or try to put my little piece on the chessboard or the checkerboard or whatever. And the only expectation that I wanted at the time was what I felt like I didn't get from my ex, and that was respect. Because even though he was a phenomenal provider, and I don't think that, just the women coming at him from different angles, like, I don't really say that that's all his fault. But like I said, drawing the line in the sand as far as respect for your significant only, I think that is yours. Even if, like he would always give me this excuse, well, it's the fans. I can't turn the fans away if they're coming at me and they're hugging me and they're bringing bringing underwear and stuff, because they would do that in front of the children and not. Yeah, they would come, they would bring their their little dainty panties and stuff right in front of us. They kiss him, all kind of stuff. So it was really, that part was really tough. And as you can see, it stood out in my mind. So one of the key bullet points was that whoever my mate was, whoever my significant only was, he had to have respect. And the two guys that I dated, was the last one I dated in 2011, they were both corporate guys. One was an actual globetrotter, so I went with another professional athlete at that time. But the other, he was corporate, and it was really good relationship. It's just that still, Angela, I had a lot of work to do, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like, I'm still working on me. Godly, it's just, it took so much out of me from my past childhood, different stuff that I've just stuff that I just needed to do. So with that being said, the caliber of man at that particular time, I just wanted him to have respect for me.
You weren't necessarily looking for somebody as
at that level.
No,
not at that level. And then I knew I wasn't gonna find that around Augusta, Georgia anyway, so I already knew that. But from the time, I just, like I said, I wanted somebody who would value and would put respect really, really high. But then it just became this blackball, which I say it became this blackball list of, people saying that I once was married to a former NFL player. And so, then I got mislabeled, high maintenance, gold digger, you name it, all kind of stuff. And then that came back into play, being light skinned, with a certain texture hair or whatnot. And that's, you had to be a certain guy or drive a certain kind of car to talk to me and all of that. So it's just been, dating for me has been pretty difficult. I mean, I've met some great guys though that I've interacted with.
people sometimes look at each other as status symbols, and the word that I use is, people can look at each other as ornaments. It's like, okay, well, you have this attractive person or this person who's accomplished professionally or whatever, but it's like, okay, well, what do you have from person to person? What's your relationship like? So, and saying that, I say that because I think a lot from a female perspective, and from men too, but in this case, we're talking about female. I think women look at these athletes who are making a lot more money these days, who have a higher level of visibility in terms of their status and the things they accomplish and travel and TV or whatever. What advice would you give women who have their focus on that kind of man with that kind of profile?
I would say, don't just look at the bag. In the hip hop culture, mean bag, money bag. You better look at that baggage that is following him. because you're still dealing with a human being, even though yes, he's a celebrity and he has on this helmet that, or he's a basketball player, whatever he is, his position in power, he still has human issues. He has flesh, he has flaws. And at some point that's going to come into play with your relationship. You have to be willing to put up with that. So it's not just about the bag, it's about the baggage. And I think anybody that that overlooks that baggage, I think my grandfather used to say, you cruising for a bruising. You are definitely setting yourself up for failure, unless and I've met people like that too. Very, very few, but there are some that they just want that lifestyle, they want that status, they want that power. More power to you. That is not my heart. That is not what not what I want. I don't think that's what most people want. I think we do want a human connection, but that is what I would say.
That's actually a pretty good quote.
Hey.
We might have to make that a meme or something.
Let's copyright it. Remember Lil Wayne and Birdman, when they said bling bling, they were like, man, wish we had a. You're right. I'm just pretty good with words.
So can I ask, what's your relationship like with Arthur as of today?
It's phenomenal. I mean, we have two amazing children. Our son is 31, daughter's 29. We have 5 amazing grandchildren, and then 2 that are not biological, but they're mixed and blended into the family. But it's amazing. I mean, we can talk civilly now. We can, we're cordial towards it. And when he comes in town, we do dinner. So it's really good. We're both grown to a point where we understand each other a whole lot better, and we know that the main focus is just uniting so that we can help our children do whatever it is that they need to do to succeed in life. So our relationship is awesome. I mean, he knows about the book. A lot of people I know kind of shied away from it when I first published it in 2017. But he has a page in there that he tells me congratulations and some other stuff that he wrote to me. So he's very supportive, and I'm supportive of him.
So what's next for you in terms of projects, ventures?
We are going to just do a global wave, so that everybody will know about the platform, the story and life of an ex-NFL wife, being able to not only share my story about that particular part of my life, but how you and I touched on being light-skinned earlier, the stigmas of light skin versus dark skin, and then just helping other women to understand why it's important for them to live vicariously through themselves as opposed to through other people. And you want to pour yourself into your family, you want to help your children, and you want to help your friends and others, but it's equally as important for you to pour into yourself and to live the life that you want to live also. So I am just going to go national with my platform, doing book tours. And my main goal, which is probably about maybe 5 to 7 years, I would like to have community literacy centers. I'm a writer. I'm an avid reader, because I do believe that readers are leaders and learners are earners. So I want community centers in, not just at-risk communities, but abroad, so that anyone who wants to, and it actually should be a need, but anyone who wants to just advance literacy, because fundamentals and the basics of reading, everybody needs those, period, in order to function and just basic fundamentals to be their best in life. So I definitely want that to be a nonprofit organization. At some point I will delve into that, but right now we're just going to take the world by storm and get this message out to as many people as possible. That's the goal.
So where can people get your book?
You can Google Angela Marshall, Augusta, Georgia, or you can go to my website, which is www.inotherwordsbystone.com, which is also the name of my company. In Other Words by Stone is the name of my company. I'm a creative writing consultant, and I help people with resumes, bios, slogans. I write speeches. I do grants, proposals, bids for, private firms. So you can do that, or social media, Angela Marshall, or the story Life of an Ex-NFL Wife. They can get anything that I have put out there. They can get.
Okay, well, hey, good talking to you, Miss Marshall, and
Thank you.
you have yourself a good day.
You too. Thank you.